Okay. Well, the kids all went back to school full time today. So my my 10-year-old grandson was bemoaning the fact he had to go back to school. It was like, well, it's like, well, like every day? I'm like, yeah, 5 days. You know, 5 days like he used to go. Crazy. So, all right. Well, good to see everybody. And we'll start this morning, and we're going to talk about habits. And I'll explain you a little bit about why that topic. But please remember to chat in observations or questions as we're going through this. And because it's always great to hear from everybody and to share your ideas. And your ideas help other people spark other ideas in the group. So feel free to chat those in. So we're talking about habits because as I was reading this article over the weekend that supposedly July 1st is kind of the tipping point where we kind of get back into what would be the beginning maybe of kind of like a new normalization, whatever that might look like. And so if we think about where we are, you know, we'll be somewhere around 14, 15 months of being in COVID and in this pandemic. And through that period of time, there's plenty of opportunity to develop habits. And so it takes 30 to 90 days to develop or dissolve a habit. And I say develop or dissolve, right? So what happens is that we develop neuro connections or synaptic connections of our neuron networks when we develop habits. And so each repetitive function we have is basically a neural net. And the synaptic connection in the graphic I have here is that little bright spot in the middle between the neurons, right? That's the synaptic connection. And the more we do something, the stronger that synaptic connection gets. So we've been in this process, right, for, you know, I'm going to call it 15 months. And so if we have, you know, if it takes 30 to 90 days, depending on the habit, depending on the individual, to develop a habit, you know, we're anywhere between, you know, 5 and 15 habit cycles. Okay. And so lots of opportunity to develop habits. And I think it's important to understand that everything that we do, say, or think, okay, strengthens the connections with our neural network. So it's not necessarily just what we do, and it's not necessarily what we say, and it's not necessarily what we think. It's all of it. They're all habits. So even right now, as I'm speaking with my hands, that's a habit, right? That I'm 58. I've had it for probably a long time, right? And so everything we do is basically because we've developed a neuro network in our brain. We've strengthened the synaptic connections like the glue, right? That strengthens a neuron. And that's literally where the expression comes from. Well, we got to, you know, I got to do a little bit of rewiring here to sort that out. That's literally what we're doing. We're literally wiring and rewiring our behaviors. And so if we took a moment now to just evaluate what are the habits that we've developed over the last, you know, 14, 15 months or so. And remember that when we develop habits, the habits themselves don't know whether they serve or not. Okay. Like we don't start a habit and the body says, hey, wait a minute, that's not such a good idea. Or, oh, wait a minute, I love this. This is great. Let's keep doing it. Okay. They kind of work that way. So we develop our habits, and our habits don't necessarily in of themselves, the repetitive nature of them don't in of themselves, you know, they're inarticulate. Now it requires us to actually be aware, okay, of a habit. And I think sometimes we talk about habits. I think habits sometimes get lumped into more of like the not so helpful bucket versus the helpful bucket. And generally speaking, we all actually have more helpful habits than unhelpful habits, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. So this is a really good time to pause and kind of take stock in, you know, how has the last 14 or 15 months affected us? So by example, we've been kind of told to stay away from people, really. 6 feet, no more than groups of X, right? All this type of stuff. So now we have to kind of unwind that. 14 months is a long time, okay, to develop habits. Do we go into the office? Do we actively seek engagement with people? All those types of things, right? And so now is a really good time to just take stock in that and really kind of understand which one of the habits that we've developed are we going to keep? Which one of our pre-pandemic habits were really helpful, and do we want to strengthen those? And then understanding that it takes time if we've developed a habit. And I'll give you a couple examples, just personal for me. It takes time, right, somewhere between 30 to 90 days to be able to change our habit cycles. And we're naturally, as a species, we're naturally impatient. So that's one of the reasons why change is so hard for people, is because well, why can't it happen overnight? Well, it needs a little bit more time. So you got to allow yourself that at least that minimum 30-day window. So I'll give you a couple habits that I've developed. One is I used to be a 5 to 6 day a week exercise person, and when COVID started, it was, as you guys know, it was pretty intense, right? Just take a look at our meeting cycle, right? As having 2 meetings with staff a day, and then we're doing 2 all calls a week, and right, and just managing all that. So I dropped down to a 4 to 5 day a week workout cycle. Well, guess what? What I learned was my body was getting more rest, and like physically, and my workouts were better, and I actually wasn't eating as much because I didn't have such a strong calorie burn, and I actually lost weight. And I still have that today. It's still what I do today, right? I don't have a 5 to 6 day. It's a 4 to 5 day cycle. Somehow or another, because I don't travel the footprint during COVID as much as I used to, which I'm looking forward to getting back out to seeing everybody. I always ended up my days in Keene. And so on Fridays, my weeks, I'm sorry, I ended up my week on Friday. On Fridays in Keene. And so end of the week, I'd go to Starbucks. I usually drink tea, right? I go to Starbucks and I'd get a vanilla latte. Well, I did it like apparently enough times where it's like a habit now. So I look forward to going into the office Friday morning to kind of do my cleanup early. I usually get in there by 7:15 or so. And I have my vanilla latte with almond milk, right? So I think this Friday we're going to start the process of discontinuing that. And I'll report back to you on Monday. So, right. So we all have developed different habits because our routines really have been disrupted. And so again, like I said, now's a really good time to take a step back and just kind of be aware, right? And do it without judgment. And so let's just talk about like the how-tos. Like, so we want to adjust our habits or take stock of the habits that we've developed. And some might just be neutral. Maybe you're reading more or whatever the case may be. So first is make a list of the habits you feel are new or that got stronger over the last 15 months. And label the ones that serve you and the ones that do not. Now, that's a little tricky because the next thing I'm going to say is don't assign judgment or guilt to any of them. So the labeling is just simply, well, you know what, this one serves me really well, maybe this one not so much. And maybe you can create a neutral list as well if you want. But it's not about feeling guilty about it. Okay, it's just simply that, hey, every Friday morning I'm in the Keene office and I go to Starbucks and I get a latte. Is that bad for me? Probably not. Do I need it? Probably not. So should I discontinue it? Yeah, probably. Right. And so there's all those types. But that I don't have to feel guilty about that. Okay. And then make a plan to strengthen the ones that serve and lessen the ones that don't. And you have to remember that it takes time. And so when we talk about lessening, okay, what you're talking about is disassociating. So somehow or another, whatever habits that you've developed in the last 14 or 15 months that you'd like to do less of or you'd like to eliminate altogether, you have to kind of stop and figure out like, well, how do I disassociate with this particular habit? And maybe it's if you got into this habit of binge watching something, I mean, maybe you just don't turn on that particular channel, or whatever the case may be. But you have to find a way to disassociate your activities from whatever it is you want to lessen. And then the inverse of that is you want to increase your association with the habits that you want to strengthen. Okay, so it's disassociate or associate. You somehow have to find a way when you take a look at something, like what's your pattern, okay, and how do you disrupt your pattern? And through that disruption becomes the disassociation, or you're increasing the pattern. That's the greater association with whatever you want to strengthen or weaken. And write down your start date for each one of these so you're aware of the cycle. So if today's May 3rd, right? And so let's say I want to give up my Friday lattes at Starbucks, and I'm going to start this Friday. I'm going to write down that date, and I know it's going to take me 30 days, right? Leave yourself time, because as we start to drop habits, which is really basically dissolving your synaptic connection, okay? You're literally dissolving the synaptic connection, all right? You're literally dissolving kind of that synaptic glue that keeps the neurons together, right? And then they fall apart and neurons go do something else. But write it down, because it'll help you kind of give yourself a little bit of time frame, because like 2 weeks for most of us isn't enough, right? It's somewhere 30 days or north of 30 days. And then lastly, don't worry about minor setbacks, okay? One of the reasons why we have little minor setbacks is to remind us of what our goal is in the first place. And so little setbacks, they're okay. They really are. I think in a lot of ways, they kind of strengthen our resolve. And we can't feel guilty about it, all right? Because once we start feeling guilty, it wears down our energy, and it kind of really almost gets in the way of us moving forward in a more positive way, because it's kind of negative energy versus positive energy. And so let's see how we're doing for, it's got one question or comment in here in our chat. It's from Edie. Yeah, habits have saved my sanity this year. Yeah, that's really great. Yeah, and it's kept you centered. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Edie. Yeah, look, I think a lot of times when we say habit, I think there's some association to it's bad. But we have healthy habits, and we have habits that as Edie said, especially in this 14 months, that have really left us more centered. So that's really good. Lucian, yeah, setbacks, accept, and move forward as if it didn't happen. That's exactly right. That's really well said. It's really a matter of you're going to have setbacks, and you have setbacks because they're learning opportunities. It's the only reason why we have them, okay? Is that it's the opportunity for us to learn. And the real kind of loss in a setback is not learning from it. The fact that you had it, so what? Doesn't matter. Move on. So well said, Lucian. And Michelle, owning the habits, yeah, looking for the change. Yeah. I mean, look, as they say, we're creatures of habit. And so quite literally, every single thing we do is something that we've done more than once. And we just keep repeating it, and then that just becomes a stronger connection. It's, there are really little things you can do. I didn't put any of this in here, but there's really like little things you can do to disrupt your habits, right? Like, and everyone's heard this one, a really simple one is drive into work a different way. Just that, or drive home a different way, or go grocery shopping at a different grocery store, right? Something that disrupts your routine. Because once we get into a routine, a habit, it's easier for us not to notice what's going on around us, because basically you're on autopilot. But when you disrupt the routine and the habits, then what happens is that you have to be more aware, because you're in new space, right? I mean, look, You go to a grocery store, right? I really dislike going to the grocery store, but you go to the grocery store and you get used to where everything is, right? Now, whether it's Shaw's or Price Chopper or Hannaford's, whatever it is, right? They're all laid out differently. But when you go to a new store, you have to think, because you have to like look around for things. And although, it might be a little bit inconvenient in the moment, your brain's thinking, you're working, like you're observing, you're looking around, right? So anything like that, periodically, okay, or frankly, a lot. I mean, I'll purposely find ways to disrupt my patterns in my thinking, because you always want to be aware of your surroundings and be more conscious of things. So yeah, that was really great. Own your habits. Own your habits. Don't assign guilt. Yeah, Bronwyn, you have more time with your husband. There you go. That's a good habit. Yeah, and Catherine, that's interesting. Yeah, it takes 7 positives to outweigh 1 negative. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Interesting. So that's what we've got for today. Thank you all for sharing, and make your list of things, and then we can you can start to kind of work your way through. What habits do you want to strengthen, and what habits do you want to dissolve? Okay. Have a great week. See everybody on Monday. Take care.